Okay. Good evening. I'd like to call to order the special meeting of the Cave Creek Unified School District Governing Board. Today is December 12th, and it is 5 p.m. Would everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 1.3, roll call. All members of the board are present. Cabinet members that are present are Mr. Dolezal, Dr. Pletnick, Dr. Hendrickson, and Dr. Jensen is absent. Item 1.4, formal adoption of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. Item 2.1, approval of three-year calendar presented by Mr. Dolezal.
President Greer, members of the board, administration recommends that the board approve the calendar proposed by the committee as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Any questions? Jackie?
Well, I had put forward some questions in the last couple of days actually I'll pull them up, just regarding some of the data that was gathered and some of the data gaps, in my opinion anyway, based on feedback and all of that. So, and that basically was, I was really curious, and still am, why we actually didn't do a parent survey. I understand, I know Mr. Dolezal and I exchanged emails and stuff, and it was perceived that there was survey fatigue, which I get, but given the times that we're in and all of the decisions that have to be made quickly, what we've gone through in the last year with decision making, what we've gone through with the community feeling like there's a lack of transparency, there's a lack of trust, that the board's already decided on this, that the cabinet's decided on that, so many different things that are out there. I feel like this was truly a dramatically missed opportunity to engage the parents, who are honestly our biggest customers and stakeholders. Obviously, the students are who we serve first, but it kind of comes down to the parents who, for the most part, make the decision whether or not their children are going to attend our schools and our district. So I feel like we missed a huge opportunity, and again, traveled down the road of so many parents saying, why were our voices cut out of this discussion? And I have to say, I agree with them. I know that and second, the overwhelming amount of emails and correspondence and texts and phone calls and grocery store run-ins that I experienced in the community were people saying to me, no, on the 222 calendar. I got very, very little until today, honestly, feedback saying, yes, go with the 222. And, most of those were committee members, to be fair. And so the question that I asked them, every single person who emailed, I wrote back, and that was in favor, I wrote back and said, how many parents did you talk to? What's the data? What did they share? How many families were engaged in this? Nobody can give me an answer. Oh, we didn't collect that data. We didn't do this. We didn't do that. So it's like anything. Anytime you throw out an arbitrary, we talked to some people. Some of the teachers knew. Some of this, some of that. Until you actually have hard numbers, that means nothing. It just really, truly does. And so I'm a little baffled by, given the fact that the last two surveys that were done, I believe it was 21 and 24, the majority response was no on the 222. And so we had the opportunity to again poll the parents, and we didn't. So I feel like that was a huge missed opportunity on so many fronts. And given everything that we're going through, everything that we've gone through the last year, again, the bus situation, all of the adaptations that so many families have had to make, scrambling to get things taken care of, I feel like we kind of put a message out there once again that we're not going to take their feedback into consideration. So that's my biggest thing, is that I have been trying to gather a lot of data about that from the committee as well, including the ones who reached out to me saying, who did you speak to? How many parents? And nobody can give me anything but, oh, well, I don't know. I didn't really keep track of that, which tells me we're not in a good space. So those are my comments on that. Open to any questions or comments.
And Vice President Ulmer, again, I think the governing board, your role is to do all of that, and it's to make a decision ultimately. Truly, I don't feel like there is a bad decision here. The committee worked their tail off, and they gave two really good options. We can walk out of here with a really good option moving forward regardless. Their work, their things that they did, ultimately they decided this was their first. The 222 was their first recommendation, and the 121 was their second. They did the work on both. I think they've done an outstanding job on both. So for whatever reason, whatever data you have and that everybody has gotten, and whatever your reasons are, cast that vote. And I think I am confident we will walk out of here with a good calendar, because they did the work on both of those models. So, whether it's not enough data or whatever that is, again, we will pick a good calendar.
Another point I want to make is that certainly the work and the commitment of the committee is appreciated. And so whatever decisions are made are not about overriding what the committee feels like they know is best, or disregarding the work that they've done. My personal vote is not about a popularity contest by any means, because you're going to be unpopular with somebody no matter which way you vote. It's not about a lack of acknowledgement or appreciation to anybody, the cabinet, my fellow board members, the community, everybody who put time and energy into this. I know that there is a lot of that, and I appreciate all of that, and I acknowledge it.
And I know you couldn't be at the last meeting, so I wanted to clarify kind of one of my comments there was really honoring the work of the committee. And really what that was picking something that they had worked hard to do. So it was my suggestion and hope that we take one of their two recommendations. We're not going to take something they did and then insert this or take this, kind of.
We're not going to do what we did last year? Is that what you're saying? It's okay. And I agree that we have to land the plane tonight, because the simple thing is there's frustration if we drag this out any further, period, end of story. So a decision has to be made tonight, period.
And again, I would put forth to all of you that there truly is not a bad decision to be made tonight. They're both outstanding calendars. Our kids will learn, will progress.
I agree with that sentiment. I just think there's an opportunity, as we continue to do committees, there's an opportunity to get the information, because if you think about the calendar as an example, there's a lot of feedback and conversations I've had via email, via text, via phone. Hey, what if we, had a later summer? What if we got Thanksgiving? What if? So I think there's an opportunity of not copying what everybody else is doing, but getting a pulse of our own district and saying, hey, what are those things from teachers and parents, and trying to find that middle ground of compromise of suiting a calendar that gives a win to the teachers and staff and gives a win to what the parents are looking for, from sports to work schedules to so on. That's what I would say is the middle ground. In this situation, we have two options. We can stay with what everybody's comfortable with. We can advance with the 222. Again, pick one, but I think going forward, it's how do we get more information to truly create a winning scenario for everybody versus everybody feeling like, I got baked into a corner. I think that's the takeaway and the learning lesson in the situation. Yeah. And again, the committee did what exactly they were charged to do based on the information that they had, based on the abilities that they could execute. So this isn't about the committee, and I know committee members sent emails and felt devalued by the last meeting, and I think it's unfortunate, because a committee's role is to provide recommendations. And even when we went through our pain point, there was a statement made of ultimately the decision lies on the board. So we as the board have to make a decision, and we own that, and we've got to do our own diligence. Yes, committees do their thing, but ultimately, we have to do our homework too, and we have to be disciplined and focused on providing and making sure that we're meeting the needs of the majority.
Yeah, maybe for just future, anytime there's a committee, maybe like such how we get for IBN, after every meeting, we kind of get a little update of what happened at that meeting. And then that way it kind of sparks us to give feedback or ask questions then that,
Or what we're
you know,
doing with the
whoever's
superintendent thing, where we're getting these little micro presentations and
until it comes to the full presentation. And then you kind of know where people came from that were on that committee. Just an idea, because I think that might make that by the time it comes to a vote and the presentation, you know, we've kind of have a majority of what was discussed, why maybe something we think is a good idea wasn't a good idea. But I think that would maybe be helpful to us in the future for committees. I think the only other miss, I'll just say miss, that we've had or question I have when it comes in regards to PLC days, how, you know, the data, it's like we have more students, but less teachers, or vice versa when it was Wednesday versus Friday. Once we approve a calendar, how easy would it be? Because I know when it was presented, it said it was more of an IBN issue, whether it switches the day, or I know there was talk of even like late start and having the PLCs happen in the morning. How is that addressed, since that really wasn't part of this calendar discussion?
Right. So Member Walker, the committee, again, kept the date on Friday. Their rationale had to do with there was only a little bit of data for this year. We did see an uptick in teacher attendance and a little downtick in student attendance. Was that a blip? Was that the natural? Some of their thoughts, and I will even say my thoughts, are if I can get more teachers here, that is critical. And for a teacher to catch up one or two extra kids who are absent is much different than 150 kids trying to catch up when their teacher is absent. So, you know, again, that's where I would lie on that one. But again, we won't really have all of that data and really have something we can sink our teeth into until we get through the year. You know, if it is something the board, I think what the community especially is looking for is, when am I starting? When are the breaks? When am I ending? Kind of those things. If the board wanted to task us with going back and looking at Friday versus Wednesday deeper, I do think that's something we would want to get done soon. But I don't see that necessarily as a major shift that would cause angst. You know, in that. So if that was something you wanted the committee to get back together, is that something you want a survey out for Wednesday or Friday? Again, like most of you have said, I don't think we're going to get an overwhelming one. Again, whatever decision is made, it's going to be, some people will be happy, some people won't. So again, as people come and talk to me, there are people who absolutely appreciate Friday and what that's done. And some people who absolutely appreciate Wednesday, and that's in the middle. And I would go back to your norms and all of that. What about students? I've had students at the high school tell me they liked a Wednesday break.
Yeah.
But then I've had students say, oh my gosh, the Friday is so much better. So again, we don't have a lot of data from 1 year, and this constant shifting, I don't know that that's healthy.
Right.
So again, you know, so keeping it where it was, again, where the committee worked through this. They wanted to keep Fridays. But is it possible that if you wanted to task us with looking at that again, I think we could. Again, but landing, I think especially the structure of the calendar would be critical.
But I think that part too, if I'm not mistaken, especially with what you're talking about, is that's really kind of the whole point of where the baton passes. That's the jurisdiction of the IBN and the cabinet to really kind of figure out how to utilize that time. Because, I mean, I do recall what I said last year in regards to the Friday was, hey, here's Friday, do with as you please.
Well, the actual order was to give teachers as much time as possible. So
Right.
we've backed off a lot on what we require and in terms of that, which I find is interesting because some of that survey data that we saw said there wasn't enough professional development, and we would kind of agree because some of the professional development that used to happen on those early release days we're not doing, or we're offering optional stuff, and believe it or not everyone takes advantage of optional things. You know, so it's that balance of all of that. But again, so yes, so we tried to honor, the board asked us to make sure we give teachers as much of that time, which is how we came up with out of a 4-week month, you know, these 2 days are professional days for the teachers, these 2 days, one is district, one is site, and then if there is a 5th one, that also went to the teachers, so.
Yep.
Any comments? Yeah, sure. Okay. Blame on us.
Well, I said most of my stuff Tuesday really hasn't changed too much. I don't think, I understand change being what it is here, and it makes the emails come and all that. But I do think that we, again, need to show that we are following the line of the committee. I don't think, and this is just my opinion, I don't think compromise is our job. And I think if we're going to be doing it the way that is, we're going to take something that is one presentation from a committee that has done all the work and given it to us, and we say yes or no, and turn it into this thing that could go on for months and months. I don't agree with that either. So I think that it should, you know, we should stick with what the committee said. As far as, you know, it's moving weeks from here to here. I don't, you know, I understand that it's a change, but daycare at the end of summer, daycare in fall and spring, it's still daycare that has to be arranged. So I know it's a pain sometimes. I used to have kids and have to do the daycare thing too, but it's just change. The 2 weeks is good for the teachers. You get an amazing break and you come back better. It's good for the students. They get a break and they come back more focused. If there is data lost in the 2 weeks, it would be lost in the 2 weeks in December as well. And that is addressed by natural teaching processes. If it's a real critical issue, like with special education, there are things that you do for that. So it's really no different, December or October or May or March, it's still 2 weeks. So that's really not an issue. You know, as a teacher, you get 1 week off, and most of the time you don't even feel like you had the week off. That's just the way it is. And we've only had, as we were talking, Mr. Dolan was all talking, we only had this week for just a little while. We didn't even used to have a week. We just used to have a few days. So,
Right, Member Fortney, the 2021 was the first time we had a full
2021.
week.
Yeah.
Right.
So, you know, it's not much. And trust me, that teaching thing, sometimes, boy, that second week is huge. So I still think it's a good idea. As far as the Wednesday, Friday thing, my only issue is that I've had principals and teachers say that by Friday they are exhausted and they just want to be able to go home when school is done. And that if there is true collaboration to be done, it would be done better on Wednesday. And that was the consensus of the teachers and principals that got with me. I don't know if there was anything else, but I don't think the survey thing is a big deal. We survey people to death here. And I think that sometimes, and the responses that you get back, you know, sometimes it's a really small part of the community. So how much are we putting all of our eggs in that survey basket? I don't even know if that's the best thing. What I know is those people did their job. They brought their recommendation to us, and we should either say, yes, we agree, or no, we don't. But to just, you know, hem and haw and try and throw all sorts of different things in it is not conducive, and so that's where I stand with it.
I think I was most shocked how many staff members reached out against the 222. And I always appreciate your perspective as a teacher, for sure. And whether maybe it's because they're involved in sports or they're the athletic director or they've got kids involved in things, and for them that isn't additional time off. Or they've got littles and they teach, and that makes it difficult as well. And I think also for people with young families, the questions are, well, what does this look like? Does this mean we get a half-day camp that's offered for us on those weeks off? Is there transportation available on those weeks that are off? That's really where I struggle with saying, okay, we could offer this, and if it is really good having all this remediation, why aren't we offering that through ECS for every long break that we have, if that's what's best for kids? Offering some type of camp, specifically targeting, especially the older kids. To be on, my middle schoolers are kind of my ones technically are some of them old enough to be home, but there's never usually like programming around that or even remediation programming. But that's the age I don't want hanging out at home. They get in the most trouble, it seems. So, again, I don't negate the work of the committee at all. And sounds like they were both 50-50 on both of their calendar options, whether we adopt the 1-2-1 or the 2-2-2. To me, I think I agree with Elmer. There just wasn't a lot of data on how we were going to do that or how many people actually were for something particular over another. So, and we still have a lot of change coming up. I would move that we adopt the 1-2-1, but I really would like to see IBN work on the balance of doing something creative with the PLC days, as far as how to, like I said, whether it's flipped Fridays or how to get more data on that.
Okay. So, Member Walker, did you just propose an amendment to the motion?
Oh, an amendment.
I believe that's what just happened.
Oh, well, the motion was just
I
to
don't-
approve a 3-year calendar, right? Not
No,
a
so the
specific-
motion on the floor is to approve the committee's recommendation, which is the 2-2-2.
That's what we're
So
discussing.
Okay, sorry.
if
That's
you
what we're
are,
I was reading this one, so sorry about
Yeah,
that.
we're discussing the 2-2.
Do we have
Right.
to vote on that and then put the other one forward, or do we amend it?
Amend.
I don't know what the proper
the,
protocol
the,
is.
the answer is yes, whatever protocol you do. You can vote on the current one that's on the floor,
Well,
and then
motion-
resulting on that, or you could make a motion. That motion would need to be voted on to change that vote to a 1-2-1. That would need to pass, and then the vote on the motion would need to take place. Or you can vote on the 2-2-2, and based on what happens there,
Put in a
Correct.
motion.
So-
I've got a couple of
Go ahead.
comments
Okay.
that
Oh,
I'd
Janice
like
has
to make.
comments. Yeah.
The committee, we all know, they worked hard, and without being shadows to the people that were on that committee, it is nearly impossible to know exactly how many people they reached out to. I respect everybody that's on that committee. I trust their work. Some things that we need to really, I think, keep in mind. Last year during IBN, one of the big things, or the biggest thing, that teachers said that they wanted was time. And this 2-2-2 calendar gives them time. And, you know, we are unfortunately in a financial position where we're very limited with what we can actually offer to the teachers. Time is a commodity that this committee figured out how to capitalize on that. So that's one thing that we need to keep in mind. Another thing, you know, CTE is becoming a bigger and bigger thing, and we want kids to be involved with EVIT. One of the problems this year is that our school calendar is not in sync with that of EVIT. So the kids who are in EVIT, they started before everybody else. And so it kind of created some logistical issues. The 222 calendar is in sync with EVIT's calendar, so for those kids, it's a big plus. As we all know, change doesn't matter what it is. You're going to change the color of paint in your house, and you labor over, which shade of whatever color. You put a lot of thought into it. Is this one right? Is that one right? Whether it was closing the schools or anything else, change never comes easy. That's human nature, because you are in a comfort zone with where you are. You know it's a known entity. When you're talking about change, it's, oh no, what's it going to look like? Jeff, you've given a little snapshot of going from one calendar to another and what it's like. I appreciate that. So I guess what I'm saying with this is keep an open mind. We get emails usually from people who are unhappy. I have yet to get a mailbox full of, you guys are doing a fantastic job. We love what Cave Creek's doing. Historically, in this school district, the people who are happy are the most silent. The people who are unhappy are the ones who are vocal. So I look at the number of people who have chimed in and said, I don't like this 2-2 calendar. And then I think about, all right, in the big picture, what percentage is this versus everybody? Because everybody has the opportunity to chime in and send us emails. And those who were not highly upset about it never heard anything. So my takeaway from that is, okay, we didn't do a survey, but these people also didn't, say anything. So based on all of my experience on this board, they either have no opinion either way, or they're happy with what was recommended. And those who chimed in are in a small minority. And the discussion about the Friday early release day, you're talking about, change, and, it's one more kind of change. Well, the teachers have gotten used to planning with Friday being the early release day. Now you're going to say, okay, now go back and we're going to redo this and refigure your lesson plan so Wednesday's the early release day. The committee who had several teachers on it, their recommendation was to keep it on Friday. That's a change that we don't need to be making at this point in time. So that's what I have to say. So we have a motion on the floor. Is there any other questions? Okay. Our motion on the floor is the 222 calendar with Friday as the early release. So, Mr. Moore, would you like to vote?
Still a nay.
Nay.
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Okay. Since the 222 calendar did not pass, I am going to make a motion to adopt the 121 calendar with Friday as the early release. That was the second recommendation, with Friday as the
The second calendar is a 1-2-1, correct?
with
That was
Friday
the
as
other committee
early
recommendation.
release.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Sorry, so when you make the motion, that is it, and that motion needs to be seconded, that's all.
Second.
It was second.
Okay, so we've got, you made the motion, Member Moore seconded the motion, okay.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay. Now we're going to vote again. Mr. Moore?
Yay.
Aye.
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 Okay, motion passed. Item 3, is there a motion to adjourn this special meeting?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Any opposed? Or all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, all in favor. All right, this meeting is adjourned. It is, what time is it? It is 5:30.